Before we begin the sketch, I'd like to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters. So a big thank you to Hixia, Beer Nuts, Trep, and Anathiel. Thank you so much. What's up gamers, it's TreeSap Jake here with yet another video. Now today we're going to be talking about the changes in 9.0.5 for Elemental Shaman, and don't worry guys, it's not at all bad at all. In fact actually it's quite good. So I'm going to get into it, I'm going to split this up, I'm going to talk about, first of all, we're going to show you the changes that happened, then I'm going to talk about them individually, and then I'm going to talk about just some general sort of legendary feelings, no talent changes or anything like that, I don't think it's necessary, but talk about legendaries, talk about a few tips and tricks, and we'll go in from there. Alright guys, so to start us off, I just want to remind everyone what happened, what the changes were for Elemental Shaman going in. I wanted to just talk about firstly the actual changes for Shaman, and then I'm going to go quickly and show you what happened with the Necrolord Covenant, which I think is really important for Shaman players at the minute. So first of all, Chain Lightning was buffed by sort of, 18-ish%. Lightning Shield was buffed by 415%, the damage that it does when you hit into it. Lava Burst was reduced by 10%, that's for all Shaman all around, so rest of Shaman and Elemental Shaman. And then for Elemental Shaman in particular, Earth Shock damage was buffed by 30%, Earthquake was buffed by 70%, and Lava Beam, which is a Ascendance Elemental Shaman Ascendance ability, was buffed by 35%. The next big change here is how Fleshcraft works. Now, as some of you may know, I've talked about Fleshcraft a lot in the past. I think this new version of it is actually way better. It is a very good defensive, so just to read this out, form a Shield of Flesh and Bone over 3 seconds, it was 4 seconds, that absorbs damage up to 40% of your maximum health for 2 minutes, while channeling your damage taken is reduced by 30%. I think this is 20% in PvP, and then obviously the passive when you consumes the essence is non-important in PvP. So guys, that's everything. That is all the changes that happened there. I want to now go through them and talk about them. I want to talk about mostly some of the most important parts about it. I don't think the Chain Lightning change was doing much apart from PvE, and this is a PvP specific sort of update. Chain Lightning didn't do too much. You wouldn't often use it, you wouldn't press it unless you're wanting to get a lot of Maelstrom. I know I've seen people like Smexon use it as a way to get Maelstrom, so you can use Earth Shock and stuff like that. Not very good if you're breaking CC and stuff, but it's great for cleave when your melee, for example, melee go over to a different target, so it may be useful there if you want to cleave them down, but honestly, it doesn't do too much. You mostly want to focus on the single target. The Lightning Shield change I've tested, it does about 300-ish damage. I thought it might be a little bit like Thorns, like it does a lot of damage, kind of hurts them when I hit into it. It doesn't do too much. Even when I practiced it against, in one of the clips that you'll see, a friend of mine, it really doesn't do too much at all. And I don't think it's worthwhile when you're getting chunked away to not have the intense healing that Earth Shield can. Critting every once in a while for like almost 2,000 damage. Too much heat, 2,000 healing. It's a lot in terms of what you get. I mean, you get Maelstrom, but in all honesty, picking that up quickly, I don't think it's worthwhile. I think put Earth Shield on the kill target, so if it's your ally, put that on them, and then take Lightning Shield for yourself, but I don't think it makes any much of a change, really. The biggest source of worry at the minute was the Lava Burst nerf, the 10%. Now, I will be honest, I have felt a little bit lack of consistent damage. The consistent damage isn't as strong anymore, but it's not really like a stark difference. I still kill very easily with Lava Burst. I'm sure many of you also realizing that you can still kill very easily with Lava Burst. You can still do 8k in a global if you overload. It is a still very good ability, and in all honesty, what you're seeing instead is a lot of 5.5, 4.5k damage where there might have been a 6 or 7k before, and I don't think that's too much of a problem. It doesn't make us less of a problem. It just basically means that there's less chance that you'll get a sudden sort of wave of 30k damage when 6 of them overload. It's not nearly as scary in that regard, but it still is scary. That's not saying it isn't. The next change is a big one, the 30% buff to Earth Shock. Now, I tested this out, and on dummies, it was taking about 9k standard, 9k standard, and in PvP, it seems to be sort of 5-6k as opposed to sort of 3 and 4 that it was doing before, maybe 2k. It really wasn't a good button to press. Now it is a good button to press, and the reason why is because sometimes, I know baby, it is huge. Sometimes it can crit for 15k randomly. So for those of you who play BFA, you remember quite vividly that a lot of our kill potential as Elemental Shaman was these random big massive Earthshock crits that would do 25% of someone's health. Well, they're kind of back now. Earthshock hits really hard. It really is a big punch. it'll really crit, and sometimes it can crit twice in a while. I've had that happen to me, but it is every once in a while. I wouldn't say it's reliable damage, but I'd say that, you know, on a regular, you'll be hitting for maybe 5 to 6k with it, as opposed to sort of like 3 to 4k. It does hit hard and regularly, and when it does crit, it's really useful because you're able to take total advantage of that. So that's a really good change. The Earthquake change is more of a PvE thing, but I think what is good about it is that you can use it when you don't want to dump your Maelstrom into Earthshock, although maybe that's a difficult choice now, that seeing that both of them do so well. But the Earthquake buff will mean that melee who kind of run over you and kind of doing stuff, you can still disrupt them with Earthquake. I don't use it too often, and I really regret not doing it, but nowadays if you press Earthquake on top of yourself when you're being chased by double melee, there's a chance that it'll stop them. Or even you can put it underneath a casting healer. The healer will then have to run out of that and cast, otherwise there's a chance they may get knocked down mid-cast. And it does a fair bit of damage. So something to consider, and I think using it and putting that into a rotation might be a good thing. Finally, I want to talk about Fleshcraft. Now, Fleshcraft I thought was a really great way of stopping CC with ultimate form, so the ability to basically make you immune to CC and give you health back. Now it gives you something even better. When you're channeling for 3 seconds, you get health back, so you get sort of 2% back every second, so that's 6% of your HP, which is not a lot, but it's enough. And you get a 40% shield, which is 40% of your HP. That is a huge amount. So if you've got sort of 40k HP, that's almost 20k, that's sort of 18, 16k, maybe that sort of amount. That's quite a lot of HP. Now, you have to excuse me, my maths isn't great, so those numbers aren't exact, but that's a lot of HP and protection you're getting whilst you're doing it. Not only that, you're also immune to CC, so they have to kick it in order to CC you. So if they have no kicks, they can't stop you. You are literally going to be okay, I think, and it's very useful in certain situations. But then also you get a 20% damage reduction in PvP. I think it's 30% in general, but 20% in PvP. That's really good. That is a second wall in a way. Whilst you're casting, you're taking less damage and you're getting health and a defense, which is great. It's a really good thing for Elemental Shaman because, as you know, we have one wall, one defensive cooldown, which is Astral Shift, and then you've got your other Earth Ellie defensive using that Earth Ellie wall. That's again another 40%, which, you know, that's only 2, and one of them is a 5-minute cooldown. So having this as well means that you can use it really early in the beginning if you wanted to get that shield to start off with, but then you can also have it in sort of bad situations where there's no kicks and you have nothing else to press. Maybe you'll get the rogue kidney, maybe you'll stop the poly, maybe you'll stop the fear, and you'll be fine, and all they can do is kick it. So it's a really useful ability, and I love the rework to it. So now I want to talk about legendaries. Now, a lot of you have been asking me, been saying, sort of, does this mean we change to a different legendary? Is there a different thing that you want to work with? And I don't really think so. I've not gone and looked at other streams, I've not looked at other, you know, Shaman creators. These are all my own thoughts. This is what I've been playing over the last couple of days, and I think that there are 2 options here, and I think something that you guys consider. I think with wind speakers, it's still very, very useful and still mobile. Like, the thing with wind speakers that makes it so great is the utility. The utility of pressing Earthshock and instantly getting a Lava Surge. Since they nerfed the Lava Surge, made it less likely to proc. In situations where you might want to kill, you might have lots of Maelstrom, so you press the Earthshock to hit the guys down a little bit lower, and then you press Lava Burst, and it'll hit them for 20% extra damage. So let's say it does 4k, it might go up to sort of like 4.5 or almost 5k, depending on how it goes, and then it may overload and do a little bit more damage too, and that might be enough to kill your target instead of having to hard cast around a corner on a spell that is almost 2 seconds long, and by that time they've all obviously run away. So I think wind speakers is still great, and I find it utility wise it's fantastic. I think there's a lot of argument though for using Elemental Equilibrium. The reason why is because I think there is an awesome synergy you can use with Echoing Shock and Earth Shock. I don't think this is a reliable way of damage, so I would be mindful about using this as a way to create damage and create pressure. But if there's a chance that Earth Shock can crit heavily when you've got Sky Fury up, for example, you could in reality put Sky Fury down, have all your Maelstrom saved up, press Echoing Shock, and then press Earth Shock, and it could potentially hit for 10k in a row. It could be 10k and then another 8k, obviously, because, you know, or 10k and another 10k. The possibilities are endless. I'm sure a lot of you can go out there and test this as a mechanic. There's lots of ways to do it, and I think it could be quite useful. With that extra 15%, you could do a lot of damage. However, as you guys know, I don't often like Elemental Equilibrium. I think it's a lot of random damage that can proc. So for example, I could press Frost Shock into a Lava Burst into a Lasso and it'll proc. That's another good way of doing damage, and that's a controlled way of doing it, but sometimes that's not always the case. And I think with Echoing Shock as well, with sometimes not having your Flame Shock up, you can waste it on a Lava Burst. So using it with using it with Earth Shock could be actually a really good mechanic to fix that problem. I think there's a possibility there, and there could be a lot of damage. I'm definitely going to be testing way more of this going forwards, and I'd like to see whether or not this works, but I think there's definitely a big cause and there's definitely a big potential in that. In terms of the actual meta at the minute, something I've noticed from playing here is that there's a lot of melee comps that are hitting very, very hard at the minute, and I think one of the scariest things is the way that warriors are sort of almost untouched, and that Rets don't really feel like they've slowed down too much. I think there's quite a worry in that, and sometimes you have to adapt. I think with Earthshock though at the minute, especially with the strength of it, is that it can provide opportunities that don't often come about. For example, there are ways, for example, where I did 15k and then a 14k almost in a row. It provided an opportunity to go on a kill target that I wasn't actually expecting. Random damage like that can shift and change how you play in a game, and I think now that we have this Earthshock capability where it can crit for quite a lot, you are able to call that out to your teammates. You're able to say, I just did a massive Earthshock crit, this guy's like half health now, or he's quarter of health now, or lower health now, and you can call a swap, and it could actually present some opportunities. I don't like this style of gameplay. I don't like it when Elemental Shaman is in a place where random damage happens, which you can't control, and obviously there are overloads, but at least when you press Lava Burst, or when you press other Stormkeeper for example, you know that there's going to be a potential for a lot of damage to come out. With Earthshock, it could be between 6k and 15k. That's a lot of damage variation. So it's a possibility, and I think hopefully we'll have some more answers. As time goes on, I'm definitely going to talk more about how I feel it is in 9.0.5, and you'll see a lot of videos from me where I play a lot of games, and I play with my teammates, and we try things out and see what works, and I think that's important. So my last sort of ending piece of advice for you is to go out and test it yourself. I hope my thoughts here has been useful. I hope that you guys have sort of figure something out. Hopefully hearing other people talk about it will help you figure something out, but these are the thoughts that I've had from playing myself in this new patch. I think Elemental Shaman in a great place. I think it's really, really good to have powerful abilities. I don't think that the Lava Burst nerf is that bad. I think maybe it hits the consistent damage, the consistent pressure a little bit, but I've honestly not felt it that much. I think I've seen a little bit, and it's like lingering there, but I don't think it's enough, and I think a lot of it is in your own head when you know that there's nerfs. Otherwise, guys, that's the end of the video. That's all my thoughts there. I hope that's been useful. I hope that's given you an insight. If you guys have any questions, any queries, concerns, problems, ask me down in the comments. Message me on Twitter. Message me on Discord. Go follow me on Twitter. Go follow me on follow me everywhere. Support me on Patreon if you're really, really helpful. It really helps keep the channel going. And otherwise, guys, I will catch you in the next video. See ya.